It just seems a little pricey for a unique fixer-upper opportunity, that's all. What do you think, Egon?
I think this building should be condemned.
Hey, does this pole still work? Wow, this place is great! When can we move in?
The firehouse is a character in Ghostbusters and was very specifically a character in the writing of this new installment in Frozen Empire.
We're back at the firehouse that the originals, the OGs, kind of lived in and worked out of.
Hello, Ghostbusters.
We're all back in the firehouse. Janine's the queen of that particular small country.
Ghostbusters, what do you want?
It's great being in the firehouse. That's where things happen. There's some great places to work, and this is one of those great sets.
Home sweet home.
We knew early on in our process of writing that the next stage of the Spangler story would see them coming to New York City. And almost by design, New York City requires a scaling up. It requires bigger stakes, bigger ghosts, greater thrills, and a larger cast. And all of those things were things I was really excited and daunted by the task of having to confront.
All right, we're back, baby. Ghostbusters are back. Back in the big city, back in the Big Apple. Gotta take a bite out of the Big Apple.
For much of the process of writing and filming, this film was work titled Ghostbusters Firehouse. And that is because we saw it not just as a location, but as an emotional environment, a context, an embodiment of the past, the importance of home and what it means to have something to stand up and fight for, and also the future.
I kind of like to stay and fight for this place.
It's not our place.
Of course it is.
The Ghostbusters Firehouse is completely iconic. Every time I stand in front of it, I imagine my father standing there at that corner of Northmore and Varick, looking at that building and choosing that to be the Ghostbusters Firehouse. The real building is Hook and Ladder 8. It's the 8th fire station in New York history. And it's so unique, it's a century old. You know, it was built originally to have horse and carriage inside it.
Jason and I went over to New York and visited the firehouse as part of the promotional tour of Afterlife. And it was during those visits that we were starting to think about how a more fully fleshed out version of a family story could take place in this environment.
Doors close, friends change, but family is the one thing that's there no matter what.
The exterior fire station has always been in Tribeca. The interior is in Los Angeles. So on the first film in '84, they went out to New York. They shot outside the New York Public Library. They shot outside Dana's apartment building here. But then the interior for the fire station was in downtown Los Angeles, near the Mission. That's basically one of the most famous buildings in film history at this point. When people see it, they know exactly what it is. It's a place on the planet that you could go and you could stand in front of. And when you're standing here, or in the one in New York, you know Venkman was here.
Can you guys just build a new one?
So it's important to this story. Building it and realizing it on screen became one of the primary challenges of putting this film up on its feet.
Let's go inside. Come on in. Even when Gil and I started writing this movie, we realized that, all right, what is our relationship with the Ghostbusters Firehouse? Obviously, we know what it looks like outside. We've seen the car come in and out of it. We know what this first floor is like. Janine at the desk answering the phone.
Ghostbusters.
Bill hopping the desk over there. But what we hadn't seen was people go from floor to floor. We hadn't felt that interconnectivity, because on the first two movies, they kind of flew by. They were like, they threw together that second floor. Yeah. We wanted to make a set where you could actually go with an actor, get on the fire pole, go down from one floor to floor, and like feel like you really were living inside it.
Eve Stewart, our production designer, took on the challenge of building this firehouse with a level of precision, detail, and storytelling acumen that astounded all of us.
Right now, we're in the firehouse. We're not actually in the real firehouse, but we're in an incredible set that was built by our amazing team here in London.
A firehouse is its own character, so I wanted to respect that. The design aesthetic of this movie is a tricky one because you want to have stuff everywhere. Every wall is packed with like tech and gadgets and like really interesting bits and pieces.
You look around and it looks just like the firehouse used to look, but every little detail is thought through. Fire pole?
Oh yeah, you really gotta try that thing, dude.
The firehouse was like what it would be like in the first movie. Just get to walk around and like go up and down the stairs.
Being on the set, it's a magical experience. Every square inch of it is living, you know, it really feels like you're living in these spaces.
I've learned to just stuff it to the gunnels, which works really well for the firehouse kitchen. The Spenglers, they're a family who are making proton packs and creating wands, you know, melting metal at the kitchen table while eating pizza. So that kind of amalgamation was fun.
We're always reacting to whatever it is around us. And also there might be something just in the, like where we're in the kitchen and it's like, oh, here's some prop or something that's like just part of the set design that you could pick up and use in the scene.
There are generations of stories that have happened there. The firehouse had ghosts for, 4 decades now. And so there are scars of past events.
One of my favorite details of the set is this patch in the floor matched by the patch in the ceiling. And this, of course, is the cross rip from 1984 when the Canadian unit blew open and shot a laser right up. I wish I could say this was my idea, this is between Gil and Eve. And by the way, it's not something that we ever point to. You have to find on your own. And this is history.
It's quite subtle, but I really wanted to show that we've patched up all the ceilings and floors from the explosion.
And it's emotional. I visited the set obviously while they were building it, but the first time that I walked in and it was complete, I actually started crying. It obviously made me think about my father, but just being able to travel back to being 12 years old and sitting on the steps over there and watching the guys do their scene work.
And they've done a remarkable job of recreating it here. We actually have the poles that you slide down. That's a lot of fun. I think I'm too old to do that now, but every time I walk past them, I just want to jump on it and slide down.
Obviously, what breaks my heart is that my father's not here. What kills me is that he would love this set because of everything it means. Not only that this was a building that he chose 40 years ago and that he was in love with the design of, but beyond that, this is a story that's always been part of his life.
It really was an extraordinary set and so important for a film like this where there is going to be a lot of fantasy that's put on screen. And so to have a grounding for our actors to be able to feel like they were living and breathing as their characters within the firehouse, that was very important to me.
This is the home of the Ghostbusters. We're the Ghostbusters.
The mood of any set is really determined by a director.
As a 7-year-old, my dad took me to see a movie, and that movie happened to be Ghostbusters. It was the summer of 1984. We had just moved to Los Angeles. In fact, we had just moved to America. So everything was new and exciting and big, and Ghostbusters was the first big American film experience that I had.
Gil co-wrote the script with Jason Reitman, so he knows what page we're on all the time.
Yes.
All the time.
Great.
Jason is around producing this, so it does feel as if the connective tissue, everything else is still there.
And now Gil has taken the helm, and he's a very experienced filmmaker. He understands the world through and through.
Gil is great to work with. First of all, he's UCLA trained. And if you saw his other movies, you see that he's a visualist and he knows how to pace a movie, move it along and cut it, and loves working with actors.
I'll give you the door cue after the win, so you can close the door, then use that into all right, we're out of time.
He almost feels like someone who won a contest to get to come and make a film for a day. That's how enthusiastic he is, and it just translates to the whole cast. His energy's fantastic. I think the best thing about Gil is that he understands exactly the tone of the movie that he's making. He really sees the whole movie in his head. It's this great mix of knowing exactly what he wants and also being open to being surprised and finding something different that he hadn't thought of.
I trust Gil because I know he has the love of the film and the fans that he's really working to bring this gift to fruition and make it special.
Cut, perfect.
I think that that's the lovely part about working with Gil or Jason, is that they both know Phoebe so well because they're the ones who created her, and so it's not like somebody new coming in and like, oh no, Phoebe, like I gotta protect her. It's somebody that is trusting me with their character and that I'm able to build it with him. I love it.
Afterlife was an introduction to a new branch of the Spangler family for the audience, and it was important for Jason and I to root the story going forward in character.
Somehow they've taken that really touching story that had to do with Harold's legacy and then brought it forward in time and continued to hold on to that thread of family, which I think is the linchpin that connects not only the films, but the original fans of the film who are bringing their kids.
1, 2, 3.
Who you gonna call?
That was awesome.
One of the great gifts that I've gotten in directing this film is this casting that began in 1984 and continued into Afterlife.
It's very exciting to be back in another Ghostbusters movie. It's all a bit surreal. You know, you never really get used to it.
It's really cool to see everybody again and get to work with everyone and to rediscover the character as a teenager and bring her to life again after so long.
So, the most disappointing member of the cast is probably Paul Rudd. He's just a sad guy. He's kind of a wet blanket to be around, you know? He'd probably say the same thing about me.
That's true. The only way I could describe it would be like kind of a black soul. Like it's like an inner, like a rage. And then I tend to suppress during EPK interviews.
Finn and Paul are hilarious. They're just always doing bits and messing around.
After this one. This is the last one. One more.
And they're just hilarious. Like, they're the same. They are one and the same. They are two kindred spirits.
Me, Paul, Carrie, and McKenna kind of feel like a family is because I think all of us just actually care about each other. And as a cast, like, you know, as a cast, you already kind of feel like a family.
As a team.
A family.
Yeah, the Spanglers. We're the Spanglers.
Okay.
Logan's podcast is a comic sidekick for the ages, irreverent, audacious, plucky with an outsized sense of confidence.
Phoebe podcast, and Phoebe can't keep us apart. Dynamic duo.
It's great to actually connect with everybody, and you know, since we're a younger generation, we're kind of picking up the new torch for Ghostbusters.
Yes! When I saw Logan for the first time when I showed up here, it was like, oh my God, like you're a young man. You were a little kid when I met you last time.
Yes!
For Celeste's Lucky character, there was a hunger to experience a life beyond Somerville.
This place is a job.
It would be unfair to their character to not allow them to fulfill that dream.
When you said you were interning, I didn't know you'd be blowing stuff away with lasers.
I know, right? It's still an upgrade. It's been so lovely to work with Finn and McKenna and Carrie and Paul and all of them again. So it really feels like a little family.
Hey, man.
Hey. It just makes sense if you're gonna make a Ghostbusters movie that you're gonna bring the best comedians you can to the party. It makes our job as storytellers that much easier.
It's been really surreal working on a Ghostbusters movie because Ghostbusters is literally my favorite thing in the world that's not like a human being or an animal. It was my first favorite movie. I've seen all the Ghostbusters movies so many times. I've seen the entire animated series. So I'm a massive, massive, massive Ghostbusters fan.
Nadeem has one of the most surprising arcs in this story. He goes from a sort of unassuming schlub to somebody who learns that within him exists a great ancient power of fire mastery.
Let the record show, I gave you a chance. What's great about Ghostbusters is that it's always been a story about underdogs. And Nadeem really encompasses the thing that makes Ghostbusters special. He's a slacker. I'm a licensed third-party reseller. He's completely discounted by everyone around him, and he's the only one who can tackle this big, terrifying demon.
Camille brings a lot to the character. He's so funny, and not only is he an amazing comedian, but he's a very gifted actor and brings a sort of sweetness to the role that is perfect for this kind of world.
I've known Kumail for years. He's very good at playing overwhelmed.
That was closer. Don't patronize me.
He stepped into the role perfectly.
Patton Oswalt, my Twitter friend, is here. It's always fun to have him around, and he's kind of taking over the nerdy scholar part.
Do I believe in spirits? Yes, I believe in spirits. I believe in self-winding clocks and the singing cheeses of Copenhagen. Please, continue.
We needed an outsider with a head that could hold volumes of a library. A guy who could stand in front of you and tell you about the ancient past with a sense of delicious joy and irony that only Patton Oswalt could bring to the party.
What is it?
No, the better question is, what's inside of it?
What's inside of it?
Excellent question.
Ray, Podcast, and Phoebe have brought actual physical proof of the paranormal. So for the first time, I think in his career, this is outside of him reading about it, researching about it, arguing about it online. He's very courageous in his knowledge, and now we get to see how much courage he has when he actually faces up against real phantoms and other, spectral presences.
So cool. Anywho.
Backstage, very exciting. If you got costume, you got hair and makeup here. And look at this. Someone has written in masking tape, cast, with an exclamation mark at the end. That's showbiz stuff.
We've been huge fans of James A. Caster's for a long time. Jason and I had both seen him do stand-up live in London, and when it was time to think about a brilliant but weird new scientist for the lab, that James A. Caster would be the guy to fill that flight suit.
They play ghosts in the movie. I don't know where I sit generationally. I guess I'm in the middle. Some people I've got to be respectful to, and some people I can push around. So that's what I like. When Wolfhard comes in, I really start that's when I'm really mean. Whoa. Finn Wolfhard. He gets no respect from me whatsoever, and he knows that. But apart from me and my ways, it's one big happy family.
James I've gotten close with, and yeah, he's just so funny and cool, and I've been able to hang out with him a fair bit, so it's been great to get to know everyone.
Kumail and Patton and James, just superb comedic skills. And I love it that the story's opened up to embrace these new players, and all of them are just so funny in their own right.
I will say that the people playing this different generation, they are nice people.
Yeah.
They're really nice, and they're fun. They're good. But they're not as much fun as we are. So we're here not just as performers, but as educators, really. That's what we do.
One of the things that has been amazing working on this is, you get to work with legends.
The OGs are back, of course. You can't make a Ghostbusters film without the Ghostbusters.
What's fun about this movie is right from the get-go, you have everyone in play. You get the new characters, the original Ghostbusters, and they're all working together.
This is the way I want to spend my golden years.
To meet your heroes and getting to work with your heroes, and also seeing them all still have Ghostbusters in them, So when Ray Stantz talks, or when Janine talks, when Winston talks, they feel and sound exactly like Ghostbusters. Like they feel exactly the same.
Let's get to work. It feels almost like coming home. You know what I mean? It's like you're a kid, you grow up in a room, you go away, and then you go back to that room, and it's still pictures on the wall, and it's still your bed that's there, and the toys you used to play with. It's times have changed, but this is home. Ghostbusters is home.
I think all of us, when we get together, it's like, it's kind of odd and wonderful, and it's like, wow, we've had a long run with this, haven't we? It's sweet.
You have done it! I'm so happy to see Walter Peck again. Bill Atherton has been a good friend of mine since we did the original Ghostbusters. He's such a gifted actor, and I love watching his process, watching him work. It's beautiful.
The uniqueness about Ghostbusters, it's a deeply, provocatively, simple, lovely thing, and very unique. There's nothing quite like it, and that's what they're doing now, and that's what Ivan did.
You can have it your way, Mr. Venkman.
And I remember that so fondly.
Good, I'm so happy to hear that, Mr. Mayor.
Sitting there and talking to Dan Aykroyd about some of the most important moments in comedy history for, freaks like me and Kumail and Patton, it's the coolest thing ever.
Dan is sort of very careful about the lore of it all and the writing of it all, and good at keeping everyone sort of on track. Bill Murray allows for this sort of like fun beats or like improv that kind of like plays into that as well. And like Ernie is like the classic trained actor that's there and that's just so good and so good at responding to everyone and kind of keeping all the madness at bay.
Playing the parts again, I think it's pretty much fun to get back into. There's enough room for everyone to be funny and to tell the story, tell it in the way that we've had some success doing. We're having a fine time together.
To hand the torch to this talented group is really gratifying, and they're taking it with great vigor and commitment. And so for me to be able to bridge the generations, it's really, really fulfilling and satisfying, and they are quite outstanding, this cast. Yeah, they're big stars all in their own right. And now they're Ghostbusters for life.
The world right now is experiencing unusual paranormal activity. We are here to answer that call because we are the Ghostbusters!